Hello, boys and girls. This is Debbie Lewis again uh, with Chapter 4 of Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson story by Dr. Ben Carson with Greg Lewis and Deborah Shaw Lewis. And that's me. That means that my husband Greg and I were the people who helped Dr. Carson write this book. Chapter 4 is entitled Racial Prejudice and a Spelling Bee. Ben and his brother Curtis encountered racial injustice, but it wasn't as intense as some other black kids faced around the country at that time. Their mother, Sonia, tried to shield her boys from it. For most of their lives, the boys lived in black neighborhoods, attended black schools, and worshiped in black churches. But one day, Ben realized that most of his white classmates considered it a disgrace to be black. A student in Ben's fifth grade class, a white boy named John, had been given the honor of representing the entire school on a television science program broadcast into schools around the state. The entire fifth grade watched eagerly on the day their classmate was scheduled to appear. Ben sat next to a girl named Christine, when the two got into a guessing game as to when John's turn would come. So when one segment of the show ended, an attempt to be the first to guess, Ben blurted out, "John will be next." When a black student walked out on the set instead, some of the kids snickered. Christine leaned over and announced, "I should wring your neck," as if Ben had implied that John was colored. In that moment, Ben felt a terrible sinking, sick feeling in the pit of his stomach. Later that same year, Ben experienced another racist incident. One day after school, he was playing with some white children when an angry shout called the white children back into their house. Ben began walking away when one of the kids sneaked back out and caught up with him. "We can't play with you anymore because you're a blackie," the child told him. Ben recognized many people thought being black was not a good thing. The last week of fifth grade, Ben's class held a spelling bee. Just as everyone expected, the winner was Bobby Farmer. But what really surprised Ben was that the word that Bobby had to spell in order to win the spelling bee was agriculture. "I can spell that word," Ben thought. He had just read it the night before in one of his books. "If I can spell that word," he thought, "I can learn to spell better than Bobby Farmer." That day, Ben made up his mind to keep on reading until he was the smartest kid in his class, just like his mother had said he could be. He read whenever and wherever he could. He read before school. He read after school. He read when he was in the bathroom. He read books when he was waiting for the bus. He kept on reading until, less than 2 years later, he had gone from being the dumbest kid in fifth grade to the top of his seventh grade class at Wilson Junior High. The same students who had laughed at him on the playground back in fifth grade now came to him and asked for his assistance with their schoolwork. Ben liked that. He enjoyed having other students come to him for help. It made him proud to know that he had earned their respect. At the junior high school, like Higgins Elementary, most of the students were white. And there Ben encountered prejudice. Railroad tracks ran alongside the route that Ben and his brother took to Wilson Junior High. For excitement, they hopped trains on their way to school. Curtis would toss his clarinet into one flat car and then jump and catch the railing on the last car of the train. Curtis liked to catch faster trains. Ben watched for slow-moving trains, but both boys were placing themselves in great danger. Not only did they have to jump and catch the railing and hold on, but they also had to watch out for railroad security men who stopped people from hopping the trains. The security guards never caught Ben or Curtis. But one day, when Ben was alone, he got caught by a group of bigger boys, and all of them were white, and one was carrying a large stick. The boy hit Ben across his shoulders with the stick, and the others all crowded around. Ben had nowhere to go. The boys yelled and called Ben ugly, racist names. Ben was small and skinny for boys his age. He knew he was no match for even one of these boys. No way could he defend himself against all of them, so he just stared at the ground. "If we ever catch you again, we'll kill you," one boy yelled before letting Ben go. Ben ran all the way to school, and he never, ever hopped a train again. Later that same year, Ben and Curtis tried out for the football team. Neither Carson boy was big, but they were fast. Both did well in practice until one day a group of young, angry white men surrounded them as they were leaving the football field. Ben and Curtis were frightened. Finally, one of the white men stepped forward and growled, "You two ever come back, we'll throw you in the river." Then the white men turned and walked away. As the boys hurried home, Ben said to his brother, "Who wants to play football if your own team is up against you?" Curtis agreed. "We can find better things to do with our time." The boys never found out if the young men would actually have hurt them, because they never went back to football practice. But it was hard to understand why no one associated with that football team, none of the other players, their parents, or even the coaches, ever asked Ben or Curtis why they quit the team. Perhaps Ben's worst encounter with racial prejudice took place during a school assembly. A teacher called Ben to the front of the auditorium to receive the award for the highest academic achievement in his grade. After handing him the award, she turned back to the microphone and tried to shame the white students for letting a black student beat them. "You're not trying hard enough," she said. Her message was clear. She thought white kids were smarter than African American kids, and that no black student should have been number one. Several of Ben's white friends looked at him and rolled their eyes as if to say, "Isn't she ridiculous?" Ben was angry, but he didn't show it. He wondered what was wrong with her. He had been in her class. She knew how hard he worked and how smart he was. He knew he had earned this award. By ninth grade, racism no longer came as a shock to Ben, though it still hurt him and infuriated him. The last day of his first term of high school, Ben had to carry his report card around from class to class so that each teacher could fill in his grade on that subject. Ben had straight A's in everything. Going into the last period of the day, physical education. His gym teacher, who was white, looked at all of his grades and glanced up at Ben. Ben had earned an A in that class, but the teacher wrote in a B and then looked up and grinned. That PE teacher knew that he had ruined Ben's chance to make the straight A honor roll, and he knew there was nothing Ben could do about it. Ben never told his mother what the PE teacher had done. He never told her about the kids by the train tracks. He never told her what the teacher had said at the honors assembly. Neither he nor Curtis ever told her the real reason they quit playing football. They did not want their mother to worry about them. And that's the end of chapter 4.